Now we're rolling. Damage Plan MMA podcast. I am Jason. As always, my co-host, the voice of MMA in Utah, Mr. Zack Partridge.
What up, dog?
What's cracking?
Dude, I'm super excited for this.
I am really excited for this one. So,
first off, this show is brought to you by one of my sponsors, sponsoring the show, helping us out, Critical Fit CBD. So if those of you guys don't know, every athlete knows the aches and pains of the recovery process, and that's why everybody should use Critical Fit CBD. It's Utah-grown hemp, tinctures, lotions, and even pre-workout. I use it before all my workouts. I use it for all my aches and pains. It's the only CBD company that all their products is grown, harvested, everything from seed to on the shelf, 100% here in Utah. It's a great company. It's designed to help serious athletes, and in an MMA, it doesn't get much more serious than this. So
what's their name again?
Check them out. The link is on the bottom, criticalfitcbd.com. They're a subsidiary company of Healthy Hive CBD. They have some different lines, but this is the one that's designed for athletes. So go give them a check out, everybody.
I will. Hey, my appearance today is brought to you by my own company.
Oh, yeah, you can plug your own.
Plug it.
This is our new, we lost the copyright trademark war for the flamethrower name, but we got to keep the flamethrower guy. So this is I Wish You Would cinnamon whiskey. And, gonna crack up. This is the first bottle. The first bottle will be available Tuesday.
Too bad we all weren't live. We could all take a shot.
You know, it's
a shot.
I don't drink. You can't. You're in fight camp.
And I'm in fight camp. And I don't drink.
I love whiskey down to my belly.
Hey Phil, how do people purchase a bottle of that stuff?
It's a bit early for whiskey. It's a bit early.
How can people get a bottle? The people that are listening and watching this, how can they get it?
So we're in the Payson, Richfield, and Eureka liquor store. We're going to be in a lot of liquor stores soon. It's a process here in Utah, as you can probably imagine. Yeah. And then you can also get it at the Clearwater Distillery. They're the first distillery ever in Utah County. So those are cool. Or you can or DM me.
You can. I'm sure you could sympathize with the Critical Fit CBD guys. All the hoops you guys have to jump through. I just went to lunch with. I went to lunch with them earlier this week, and just like the politics around that type of stuff, it's insane.
Yeah, it is. I mean, luckily for me, I've been in the bar business for like 20 years, and doing a bar business in Utah it's pathetic. It's sometimes what we have to deal with. And the regulatory body of that is the judge, jury, and executioner. So there's really no help for that. So. But it's been an adventure, man. But yeah, just want. And I got my my peach whiskey here. In case you like.
We got peach too, peach and flamethrower.
Yeah, and we actually are not just whiskey. We're gonna replace all of our lines of liquor. This is a vodka, which is very comparable to Tito's, and this is my newly made original whiskey bottle.
Sweet,
so, that's very cool, man.
Hey, shout out to Arkansas, watching all the way in Arkansas. S. Jackson, shout out, man. Appreciate it.
I've got people watching from everywhere. You probably see some people from Tulsa. I mean, I've been pretty busy with this. From the Bay Area, there'll be some people from the Bay. So,
all right.
Still a big deal back there, I guess. I don't know.
Hey, Phil, you go way back in the MMA scene. I mean, we don't need to get into how old we are, but I know who you were from way back. You and I did a little bit of work together at a local gentleman's club for a little bit.
Yes. Well, yeah, no, I was going to work there for 30 days. I ended up staying for 10 years. So.
Were you there for that long? Holy crap.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Just it went by like that. But, then one day I just walked out and said, I'm never working for anyone ever again. And I would advise everybody to get out of their comfort zone and do that, and open my bar down in Utah County, where I knew South Utah County, where I knew like Jordan Clements and Chet Thomas from MMA. That's about all I knew from down there, and got out of my comfort zone. And it wasn't easy, man, but we pulled it off. So, but yeah, no, I've been in. I was fortunate enough, so I went into the Coast Guard in '93, and I was fortunate enough to be in the Bay Area, where there was just a plethora of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gyms, a bunch of mixed martial artists, and there's a huge kickboxing community in the Bay Area that people don't kind of give enough credit to. So, I was very fortunate, to be able to walk into like Half Gracie's academy, start training there. The first day I walk into the gym, I was wondering if these guys are going to be any good. And I'm like, what's that guy's name? They're like, oh, that's BJ Penn. I'm all, who? Oh, that's his brother, DJ Penn.
Cool.
Bobby Southworth, Half Gracie, Nino Chembre. I was like, what the? Yeah, I learned how to get a tap from all positions, like really quickly.
So it's the undefeated move, man. How do you get out of every move? Double tap.
Master Ken's got that down. Yeah.
Right. Speaking of a guy, I just want to give a shout out to Clay Collard last night, a guy who didn't tap when he was in the freaking choke.
That was so deep.
I don't know how he got in it. I don't know how he got out of it because that guy had his knee trapped too, his leg trapped.
No, he had everything right.
And Clay, Clay's just heart and been in every situation you can imagine in fighting. I mean, he's been wrestling and boxing since he was basically born, right?
Yeah.
And he's a tough kid. But I for a second, Randy Couture and I think Kenny Florian were saying he's gonna tap. It's almost over. And then Clay just, kind of
peeled his head off. And
I was like, whoa,
dude, I almost turned it off. I'm like, dude, he can't get out of this. Like you said, the leg was trapped. It was in deep. It was tight. It kind of looked like his hand was there. And I'm just like, dude, I'm like, dang, man, he got caught. Like, that's what it was. I was like, oh, I even said it. I was at the Jazz game watching it on my phone at the Jazz game. And I was like, man, Clay got caught in a submission. Dang, man. Because if you have seen like some of his losses have been like guillotine chokes and whatever.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, dang, he got caught. I was like, all right, that's cool. Like, whatever. Dude, and he freaking that's what I love. And our boy Tyler Diamond's the same way, but it's so easy to fall in love with fighters that have no quit in them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Diamond got hurt pretty bad. I don't know that kid he was fighting. That dude was pretty tough, man. But
Diamond was a savage.
Diamond was pretty hurt going, man.
Plus
he had the mullet of the year.
Oh, he's got the best
fear the mullet, baby.
Oh yeah.
Zack and I were texting last night, and you guys both fought. I haven't fought, but what's it like, Phil, when you got a guy like Clay Collard that just keeps coming forward? It doesn't matter. I mean, he gets hit. He doesn't matter. The guy just keeps pressure. What's that like when you're in the cage with somebody like that?
So since, people bring that up, I do think this is a problem for some fighters that win a lot of early and quick fights, that they've never had attrition paid back to them. They've never had to hit somebody with everything in the kitchen sink and the guy's still coming forward. That feeling is the worst. That is you've almost spent yourself. You've exhausted yourself. You've kind of, blown your wad. And to see the guy like kind of, like a razor sharp, for instance, I've seen him. He actually got knocked out in a fight and still won. Gets my buddy Jeff Rutherford. I mean, he was out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
A guy like the best example I can think of from Utah is Hank Weiss.
I remember Hank. Yeah,
I've seen Hank. He fought my buddy Casey Escola. Hank lost like 14 minutes and 45 seconds of a 15-minute fight, every avenue, every area, and then still managed to get a heel hook on Casey with a little bit of time to go. And I was just like, damn. And I've seen everyone that's seen Hank fight.
That was his MO. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's sneaky. You never, even if he lost, you were like, is he ready to, is he going to do the Undertaker and rise from that, somehow get a tap or something?
You're going to start calling it the Tyson Fury. Now you're not going to call it the Undertaker. The Tyson Fury just.
Dude. Yeah. No, but it's the one thing that I haven't been in that war in a cage yet, but I've done it at the gym, where you're trying to get somebody to get off of you and you're starting to hit them with heavier and heavier shots and they keep walking at you. It's exhausting because you don't know where to go from there. And that's where you see a lot of guys kind of like panic shoot or whatever. But to be, you could almost see the guy after he got out of that submission, and he even tried again and kept taking him down. And the way that Clay would just, even hands down sometimes, and just keep walking at him.
Yeah.
It's demoralizing. You're like,
you
start questioning if you have anything in you to put that person away. I know it's different in a fight than in a gym with a training partner too, but it's like, you go into a fight and you're like, I know if I hit this guy with my best shot, like I'm gonna put his lights out. I know if I get this, like it's over. And when it doesn't, it just up here, it messes with your head a little.
No, I definitely think it does. And in that fight, I particularly saw Collard got pissed and Ty kicked him to the body on the ground. And he wasn't really defending that. I don't know if he knew that maybe that's a rule you can or can't do or whatever. And Collard, I think that's where the fight changed because that guy had him in the submission. He was putting on him a little bit. He was landing takedowns. And Collard, when he landed those Thai kicks to the rib area.
Yeah.
Ooh. His body shots are,
nasty. Well, he
nasty.
dropped one of my coaches with a body shot.
Yeah, that looks. Yeah,
it's Lucas Montoya fight. Like they were freaking.
They were throwing.
They were chunking leather. And what ended it? What people I don't think a lot of people saw. It was a combo, and he hit him in the liver, and Lucas just it just went down, and he was fine. But Luke body shots are
I think a very underutilized shot. The worst I've ever been hurt sparring was by a guy named, a lot of old people know as Samson Pua. He was
I just saw him this morning.
Andrew Galata. Oh, you have?
Yeah.
They used to train at UCTC, and he was just messing around one day. He hit me so I thought part of my one of my kidney or liver actually exited my like when a deer gets hit. I was ugh. I mean, people don't give they don't understand how tough those Pua guys were, man. Oh my gosh, Oh yeah. Their dad used to coach me a little bit, and he'd be like, "Young man, quit blocking punches with your face."
It's good advice.
Yeah,
it was.
Oh man. So Phil, you sent a couple pictures before we signed on there, and you're grappling in a picture with a certain Gracie. Tell us what's going on with that. How'd that come about?
Oh man, so once again, I'm in the Bay Area, mid 90s, and it's around UFC 5 or 6. Like a lot of people, the only way you could get that information was to run down to the store and buy a black belt magazine. That's the truth, man. That's how old this was, where they didn't even have it on some of the internet stuff, like who won. I remember I had to find out Dan Severn won from a black belt magazine. I had to go and they had all the pictures of it. But Hoist was doing a seminar in San Francisco at his brother's attorney was had a small gym, and I heard about it. I saw a flyer for it somewhere, and I was like, dude, there. And it was my first actual jiu-jitsu class. I had done a lot of grappling before that, actual grappling, not just wrestling. But it was my first full-on BJJ kind of tournament class setting. Man, it was pretty surreal, man, because at that point, I think Hoist Gracie was kind of regarded as something a little holier than thou, man. People were in awe of him, this aura, like a Bruce Lee kind of thing. And in the Bay Area, there's so much martial arts and karate and all that stuff where they have a little bit more respect for that. And I mean, people just were like, oh, that's Hoist Gracie, man. And I was in awe. I was in awe. And he was a great guy, really, really cool, really laid back guy, but that's how I first started.
From the looks of the picture, it looks like you had him. Looks like you
well,
had
if
him.
If you turn it upside down, then I'm good, man. No, he was just phenomenal, man. I mean, he just ran through 35 people. I don't think he even sweated, not even one sweat. So, but that's where I got my start was with training there, and then I went to Half Gracie School in Mountain View, and I trained there for about 6 months. And I mean, those guys were just killers, man. BJ Penn, like I said, all those guys, Bobby Southworth, Cameron Earl, bunch of world-class guys, and really stepped up my game there. But going back to Hoist, I mean, I this is one thing I hate about MMA today. I don't think the Hoist today gets anywhere near the credit he should. I think that people, the words overrated and all of these things are thrown his way. And I kind of got into it on accident with Bubba McDaniel on your podcast about disrespect towards MMA people and old people. And, thanks for being entertained. We'll get to that in a minute, but that's not what I meant. It was about the Eddie Alvarez thing. It wasn't what I meant at all. And right. I liked that Bubba, called me out on it, because he was like, he had some statements about it. I was like, oh, wait. That did come out wrong. That's not what I meant. But that is one of the things I don't like.
Doesn't mince words.
No. That's one of the things I don't like about MMA is that I think it's very much a what have you done for me lately sport. I'm disgusted with some of the stuff I hear about even Stipe Miocic. Just one fight ago, before he fought Francis, he was being regarded as the GOAT, the heavyweight GOAT.
Is.
Yeah, still is.
And a lot of people are like, well, he's done. He's washed up, and I don't believe that. But I mean,
he's not washed up.
He didn't look good in that fight, but that's Francis, dude. I mean, so
but it's the evolution of the sport too, right? Like Horace Gracie, for his time, he was as dominant as anybody's ever been for his time. He didn't have the resources that the fighters do nowadays either.
No, it's kind of like comparing football players, like the GOAT, who's the GOAT, which LeBron James is not the GOAT.
Michael Jordan,
and you go back before that, people, think Will Chamberlain was the GOAT. I mean, he's got about every rule you can. But yeah, I mean, the Gracie, there was some things about Hoist that a lot of people I think don't know. Like there was, he didn't really have a lot of competition fights. He didn't really, before the UFC, he'd only done a handful of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments. As far as I understood, they kind of kept him separate from, like they had Hickson, who was doing a ton of tournaments.
Yep.
There was the family champion before Hickson, which was Hollis Gracie, the one that died in the hang glider accident. He was on Carlos Gracie's side of the family. But to kick you guys a little bit of knowledge here, there was like kind of two trees off of the Gracie family. It was Elio's side and then Carlos's side. And here's a little knowledge for you. Carlos actually practiced polygamy. He had 27 or 28 kids with 7 or 8 different women. He wasn't into it he was into it for the reproduction, not the joy. That's like his very, very, almost like cult-like statements. And you can Google that right now. It's a fact. And that's why a lot of that side of the family kind of looks a lot different than them.
Very interesting.
And then going to Hoist's side of the family, most people don't know this at all. So Elio's wife she was infertile. She couldn't have children. None of those kids that they have are her actual biological kid. Hickson and Hoist are not from the same mom. They're from different moms. So like, I think it's like Hickson, Hoist, and maybe Helson are from one mom, and the other ones are from another mom. And that is why they kind of like, Hoist and Hoyler look pretty similar. And some of the other guys, Holker, I can't remember a couple of their names, but they're from different parents. I mean, that's kind of a weird thing that you can Google, like, and check that out. But and there was a lot of animosity between at one point between the two sides. That some people thought Carlos's side of everything was the better way, and Helio's was more technique and a little bit different way. And that's where like when Hoist got challenged by Walid Ismail, and he lost that jiu-jitsu match when he got choked out after he was UFC champion. That's what that was about, was that Walid was actually very accomplished grappling tournament. He didn't do so well in MMA at all, but he was very accomplished in tournaments. So it really was, in a lot of ways, a mismatch at that time, because Hoist was, he didn't do tournaments, which is a completely different skill set. There's knowledge for you.
Knowledge, like it. Well,
I'm smarter than I look.
we need some more knowledge, because we just had a question from Mr. Dutch. How did you end up stumbling into the Lion's Den?
Jeffrey Dutcher.
Was
that him? Okay, yeah,
that's
man.
him.
So I was at Ralph Gracie's school, which was killers, dude. These dudes were killers, but you weren't really allowed to do leg locks at all. Okay, there was a time in BJJ where I don't even think maybe only a straight Achilles lock was allowed. And so in a gi, I trained my ass off there, dude. But I went from getting tapped out 75 times a class, because there was just killers there, dude. There was black belt. I'd get beat up by BJ Penn, and then I get beat up by David Camarillo, and then Bobby Southworth. I'm like, so I switched from the house school because I had seen that when we went, so we only did no gi on, I think it was Saturday afternoons. And I went from getting tapped out, I got my tap out percentage way lower. I went from 75, 50, 40, 30, 20, got it down to 5, Okay. But when I went to the no gi, I noticed a huge difference right away, that I was only getting tapped out a couple of times because they couldn't keep a hold of me. And I kind of got to the realization that, dude, you suck with your guard. You're not gonna jiu-jitsu with a gi is not your forte. And I had a buddy. This kind of came up from Gabe Rudiger. Commented on some posts I did on Facebook. Remember me from my surgery and my accident. UFC fighter, the infamous cake eater. You know, he's known for that. But man, that dude was a badass, man. Like he was.
We
won a lot of fights, won a lot of championships.
We had Gabe on. We love Gabe.
Yeah, he's awesome,
stud, man.
Yeah, he's awesome.
So,
he was one of our first guests.
He's probably he was our first. I think he was our first tough alum.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, cool. So back then, you weren't allowed to train at other gyms. You would get kicked out. Kicked out. Okay, like because jiu-jitsu had their secrets. They all had. You know what Half taught was a little bit different than what like Cesar Gracie taught over with where the Diaz brothers and all them came from. You know, so you weren't really, to say it was frowned upon would be an exaggeration. You would get kicked out. It was like being a trader, even to just train. And I actually had a judo guy named JB Bradley that I trained with, and we kind of put together like a secret crew that we would go around and train all around the Bay Area. With different guys, and I would take them to like the military bases where snuck them on, which today would never happen. But I used to sneak them in and get them in the back door because we had wrestling mats, several places in the Bay Area. But you can't do that. You go to Fort Leavenworth for that now.
Yeah.
And we trained at different places, and that's where I met Gabe. Was right after my surgery with the Lions. Then we trained at a house gym. One of my friends was really rich. He had like a farm gym. It was like badass, like barn that was converted to a wrestling room. We trained there. That's where I met him. And I remembered him on the UFC Ultimate Fighter. And then I kind of forgot about it. And then when he commented on that, I was just like, holy shit, man. I got chills up my back, like from that, because, for what happened to me, which I guess we'll get into here in a minute. And then to lose all of that. And, for some people, to remember it, just seeing my name, a guy that's fought in Ultimate Fighter, fought in UFC, there was like, a kid I just trained with. That was chills, man. I was like, Kate fucking Rudiger, what the hell, man? That was cool. So the reason how I started training with the Lions then was because I did start jumping around a little bit and training with these guys that we'd go to different gyms, and then I had a friend that did some stuff with the Lions then. And they just started taking students. So at the time that I went there, about 2 weeks before that, they weren't taking students. You had to have already been a fighter or gone into their young boy program some other way. But so I started there as a student originally, and I had a pretty good base with everything, and I excelled really quickly with them because I was really happy to have the damn gi off. And I know a lot of people believe in the gi, but I believe in the gi to a point for training, but dude, I felt like a whole different person without the gi.
It's a different sport. It's a different sport.
Completely different. Just everything you grab, you're grabbing different with everything,
Yep.
Your holds, everything are different. So,
yep.
So yeah, I mean, I walk into the Lions Den, Frank Shamrock sitting there in jeans eating a Whopper.
Oh, I love Whoppers.
Oh
yeah. And he goes, "You a wrestler?" And I'm not really a wrestler. I'm not like, I mean, that's what people assume. I'm not really a wrestler, but I'm like, yeah, what's up, man? So hold on. Takes it off, and then we start wrestling, and I got like a double leg on him pretty easy. I'm like, dude, I just took down like King of Pancrase, man. And then it was not good. Frank Shamrock is one of the so underrated with some of the people.
Bad dude.
Grappling.
Oh,
his grappling prowess was really second to none. And he's a guy that can do like backflips and flips and all kinds of stuff. He's essentially
he's an athlete.
Yeah, and but rolling around with him with Levi's on, and that was something a little like out of Roadhouse, like our first grappling encounter with him was just with Levi's on. But then, I turn around, then there's like Maurice Smith, UFC champion, the guy that, beat Mark Coleman.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't remember who he is, UFC Hall of Famer.
Yep.
Jerry Bullander, my boy Mikey Burnett, Guy Mesgers. Ken was in and out of that time. That's when he was as big as he could be in WWE, or which was WWF back then.
Right.
I mean, we went to a show out at a college out there once, and The Rock was like brand new, dude. Like The Rock was,
Rocky
just smelling. He was just smelling what The Rock was cooking, man. It was Ken was the headliner, like Rocky was.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So it was a who's of current MMA, like, Pete Williams, the guy who knocked out Mark Coleman.
Yep.
I think that was his first fight in the UFC, if I remember right. So it was like a huge who's. Like Oleg Tatarov was there, Trey Telligman. I mean, it was, it was stacked, man. And I guess the difference is this: the BJJ guys, they were kind of more just going to do competition, and only Half really trained for his extreme fighting, like with MMA side of things. And the Lions Den guys were fighting. They wanted to fight. They were doing the fight process. So they had a whole different mindset. They had guys in camp for a fight, peaking, getting into camp, peaking, and they were professional school. So I trained. I was like, dude, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And so I got my tryout with them, and then that's when everything kind of went south after that. So you got to keep going now. You got to tell us what happened. All right. So their tryouts were, so let's clear up a few things. Getting into Lions Den, there's been massive like steroid rumors, drug use, like a ton of rumors. I can honestly tell you that nobody ever from the Lions Den offered me any kind of steroid or testosterone. There's a caveat to that, though. I was a federal boarding officer in the United States Coast Guard at the time. I was assigned to the DEA with some things. But I don't think anyone would have offered me that if they had it. But I never saw them give people stuff or solicit it. But there was obviously the eye test with some things,
Yeah.
And
some people didn't pass the eye test.
Yeah.
No, and I had experimented with testosterone. I've never done steroids, but I did. Well, I guess what's your definition of that? I've done some testosterone, which was legal then to do. It wasn't considered a steroid at the time. I think it was
legal
if you're with a prescription.
Yeah.
I didn't get it with a prescription. There's massive amounts of stuff available in the Bay Area. That's where, where Barry Bonds and Victor Conte are from,
Yeah.
That rings a bell.
Yeah.
But I'd experimented with testosterone. I'd never done an anabolic steroid. I mean, maybe once. I didn't kind of like that stuff because
maybe once.
Well, here's the truth on that. You didn't know what you were getting. Like you guys, people these days have no idea
sketchy.
what they have the information about. Like back then, they'd have people that had manufactured fake stuff giving people horse tranquilizers and stuff. I mean, man, it wasn't good. So
still going on nowadays.
Yeah, well, that's where you get caught with a couple picograms over your limit.
John Jones would know by now.
Yeah.
Well, he's not hiding underneath the cage. So I didn't ever. That's a fact. And then I don't know. A lot of people brought this up because I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and trained with Mikey Burnett. You guys know Mikey? You have background on Mikey. He was a UFC fighter. He beat Eugenio Fabio. He lost a controversial decision for the first UFC lightweight championship to Pat Miletich in UFC Brazil. I still thought that Mikey won that fight, but it's debatable. But his brother is actually he's still Mr. Oklahoma, Scott Burnett. I mean, he's like one of the biggest human beings you've ever seen. And a lot of the guys were bodybuilders, and there was a bodybuilder gym there. I can honestly tell you they never offered me anything as well. But there's a caveat to that too, man. Like we'll get into what happened with my surgery, my accident with the Lions Den. Probably not the best idea to give me something or even think about giving me something after my I died on an operating table in Oakland. My body was I went from looking like a mini Kerr, like Mark Kerr, to I couldn't even lift weights for like 2 years or something like that because of what happened. But in all honesty, nobody ever offered me any kind of steroid. You could look at the eye test. I think there's some caveats with me because I was a federal officer. I was, I did boardings, I did drug enforcement, but would I have told on them or done something? No, they were my boys. They were my brothers. There's no way I would break that, that code at the time, but, So what happened with my tryout? Their tryouts were pretty legendary, where you had to run for a couple miles. Then you had to perform. I don't know how familiar you guys are with Hindu workouts. We had to perform 500 Hindu squats in a row, 500 push. It wasn't 500. It was 200 Hindu push-ups at the time. You had to do a whole bunch of crazy, like Marine Navy SEALs test exercises, like for about 3 hours. Okay. So right away, I was I felt like I after my squats, which sucked because we had to do the squats first, right? So your legs are just
Get the
jelly.
legs done. Yeah.
Try and do 50 Hindu squats, guys. Google it. Try it. You got to work your way up to a lot of that. Even if you're in like fight shape right now, if you're not doing Hindu stuff, they are no joke. I thought I tore part of my quad at the beginning of it because it was so tight. I didn't realize what was going on. But I powered through it. I passed with one of the better tests. The other guys, everyone else failed. That was there that day. But I went through the whole thing and with thinking I had a pretty severe tear, but I was at the point where I wasn't going to give up. I'd already put in my papers to leave the military. Okay. I was on what do they call that, Jason, when you're on leave, but terminal leave.
Terminal leave. Yeah. Terminal leave.
Terminal leave from the military.
Yeah.
Luckily, because my surgeries were $1 million bill, I was still in the Coast Guard. Luckily. So I was on terminal leave. I gave up everything to do it, and there was a guy at the Lions Den. He fought Chuck Liddell in UFC, Vernon Tiger White.
Yeah.
Vernon was the only so a lot of the guys from Lions Den made me better, and they were very polite and like my boys, like they didn't like beat me up, they made me better. They tapped me out, told me what to do. Vernon, like for a minute there, he liked to kick my ass like it was his job, right? Like he really did. Like and he fought Pancrase, he's fought everybody, and he liked to smack me around a little bit, and he was a good part of my tryout I had to do with him. And I was just so determined to I'm gonna fucking show him up, man, because he was like, you're not gonna make it. So he was like a negative how he got his reactions out of you or to push you. His was negative. The other guys were more positive, and you can get both resorts. I will tell you that fired me up, man, because I sometimes at practice after I wanted to just go up and cheap shot Vernon, like literally, and it wouldn't be good. But anyways, I made the team, and this is the highs and lows in life, guys. I made the team. I gave up my military career. I'm gonna leave behind everything. I made the team. I'm so excited. I go to bed that night. I'm like, okay, I might have a slight tear. We'll get it looked at tomorrow. I wake up the next morning and my legs they were stuck straight. I couldn't move them. That was pure agony. I had compartment syndrome in all of my legs. I finally got up after like an hour of trying to get up, and I peed, and I was peeing like pure Coca-Cola. Or I'm not even gonna say Coca-Cola. Pepsi colored pee. Like it was brutal, and at that time I didn't have cell phones. I'm like, dude, I gotta get to the hospital, and I couldn't get to the phone. It took forever for me because it was one that was on the wall. It took forever for me to get it knocked off. Finally, called my buddy, who he came and got me, threw me in the back of his truck, took me over to the Oakland hospital, and they wheeled me in, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. And luckily for me, they had one of the best podiatrists in all of the world that was there that day on call, or I would have only one leg for sure. Okay. Wow. So they did these pressure tests, and they're like, we have to operate like now. If I want to save your leg, I need to operate now. And I'm like, what the fuck what are you talking about, man? Like, I mean, this can't, it's like a tear. Yeah. And he's like, no, you have compartment syndrome. You're also on rhabdomyolysis. So you're going to be into heart failure here pretty soon. We need to operate right now. So I'm one of the rare people in the world. I don't have 4 quadriceps. All of my quadriceps are actually surgically cut in half. They had to do that to release my pressure. It's not ideal or cosmetic by any means. I look like I was clawed by a bear on both of my legs. I woke up that day after the surgery, and they were like, just so you know, like we had to call your parents. They're coming out here because I didn't let my parents know. Like I wasn't going to freak them out. And they're like, you actually you didn't make it for part of the surgery. Like when we tried to get the tube that they pull out and stuff, you choked on it. You had heart failure. Your heart stopped. And I was like, then I looked down and I didn't know because the doctor told me there's a chance we're going to have to amputate your right leg. Okay. And I was like, well, fuck, do I have both my legs? And because I was out of it. I was on like morphine and all kinds of stuff, right? Yeah. And I was like, oh, thank God I had both legs. You know, they had to take a part out of my right. I lost part of my muscle in my right leg. And that sucked, man. I was in rehab for 6, 7, 8 months. I didn't walk for like 3 or 4 months. I couldn't even use the bathroom. You want to talk about being humbled. And, you know, I've been humbled in life on a few times, but try not being able to use the bathroom by yourself for like 4 or 5 months, man. It was brutal. It was fucking brutal, man. But the whole time, man, the only thing I think was like, dude, how fast can I rehab to fight?
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, fight, dude. You had heart failure. Like, we're not even sure about you being able to have caffeine. I'm like, oh, that's not gonna. I'm not someone that accept things. I'm like, no, that's not gonna happen. You know. Yeah. So I trained. You know, I was watching the fights. I was watching when Maurice Smith beat Coleman, and I was, he beat Tank Abbott right after that. I was learning how to walk again, and the only goal was like to fight again. That was the only goal. That was the only mission. And you know, it was a long process. They had to keep me in the military about 2.5 more years before I was medically cleared because I had heart damage too. But yeah, man, that was my what happened with my surgery. And then unfortunately for me during that time, that's when the Lions Den split up. Okay, that's when they closed the original Lions Den. There's a lot of rumors about that. I know we got a bunch of stuff to get into. I'll just address it real quick, but. So Frank Shamrock left with Maurice Smith and Tsuyoshi Kosaka. They went to this little gym you might have heard of called AKA, which wasn't heard of, you know, American Kickboxing Academy. Yeah. They left then. There was a lot of animosity, and I'll tell you what I heard and what I heard from reliable people. Okay, because a lot of people, almost every top MMA gym has broke up. You go back in time, you look at the Hammer House, you look at, you know, Randy Couture's first team Raw, you know, you look at Team Quest, they're not the same team anymore, you know. Couture, they all split up. I think Dan Henderson and Matt Lindland are still suing each other or something. Oh, wow. You know, every MMA team has broke up, and the top team at some point, Militich Fighting Systems went completely different, you know, directions for a while. It happens, but what I had heard was this, and this is the truth about what I heard exactly. So Ken was in the WWE. And in a way, if you're not there, you're going to be micromanaging, right? Does anything suck worse than getting micromanaged? It probably doesn't. Nope. I mean, everything sucks. So Frank had taken a fight with Tsuyoshi Kosaka. He fought Boss Rutten in the UFC. He beat Chemo in the UFC. I think he would have beat Boss Rutten if they didn't do a late stand-up in that fight for no apparent reason. They should not have stood that fight up. It's very controversial that they stood the fight up, and that's when Boss kind of just teed off on him. Yeah, and Boss was known to be able to do that. But Tsuyoshi and so Frank had wanted to fight in the UFC for a long time. Okay, he was the king of pancreas. He was clearly more than ready to be in the UFC. Okay, yeah. But he had a fight in Super Brawl as a tune-up with John Lober, and he lost that. And it was kind of the transition from pancreas, which is. Pancrase is awesome, dude, but it is open hand, you know, slaps and strikes as compared to punching, which it's almost like, you know, in a way like the gi and no gi, where you do have a different like setup for things. Yeah. So there was kind of this, you're not ready. We need you to be ready kind of thought. Like you need to be ready to be a world beater. And in Frank's mind, and obviously when he went to the UFC, he was a world beater, but he had a tough fight with Tsuyoshi Kosaka. Yeah. Nobody knew who TK was really at that time. Nobody. Like he's a big, huge Japanese guy. He's not small. He's not slight in stature. He's thick. He's had rings fights. He's fought probably. I mean, he ended up fighting about everybody. I mean, he was a tough guy. He had a move where if you'd mount him, he could put his legs up and flip you so fast. He did it to Chemo. It was like the really coolest mount reversal that just the way his hips work, he could he could put his legs like over you and flip you. But they had a tough fight. And what I heard was this: is Ken came back and was like, you lost again, or you had a tough fight against a guy you should have killed. There was like beat really badly. There was some animosity. Pete Williams also won a fight, but I guess he was losing most all of the fight till the guy just kind of gave up in the same night. So it was kind of like Ken was like, "You guys, what are you doing, fucking around? You guys, I'm out here making all the money for us," because he was making millions at that point.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we had every hammer strength machine you've ever seen and never even heard of or thought of, that like when they first came out. Like, I mean, he had $500,000 worth of hammer strength machines. I mean, hammer strength gave them to him, I think, but I mean, just like he was making the money. And
Yeah.
So as I heard it, Ken and Frank got into it. Ken picked up a computer, threw it at him, and I didn't necessarily hit him with it, was or smashed it. And there was a lot of animosity because they are adopted brothers. They're not biological brothers.
Yeah.
And Frank left, and that was a huge loss, especially with Frank had a lot of connections, and he also he had Maurice Smith with him, man. And Mo Smith was one of the best kickers in MMA history. Mo Smith was a dangerous man. So that's what I heard, why that kind of split happened. And then they closed the original Lions Den, and I'm like, dude, this is great. I just gave up my legs. There's no team now. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I almost died. I can swear on this. There's not too many kids.
You can. Yeah.
It. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, I'm freaking like, I gave up my career, everything. There's no team. And then Jerry Bolander is such overrated. He's actually the first lightweight or light heavyweight champion in the UFC. Like, he won the first tournament that they actually did different belts. Zack, maybe have to double check that, but he won. I killed everybody that night too. He was trying to put stuff together, but he said, look, you can go to San Diego where they're at. And Vernon was down there. And I wasn't like, I don't know. And it's not that I didn't like Vernon. It's just like, he motivated me, but it was almost constant negative motivation. And Mikey was more like a boy almost. And maybe I should have went.
Teach you.
Yeah. Maybe I should have went with Vernon, but I went with Mikey. I went out. He had a Lions Den. I went out to Tulsa. And then the Lions Den kind of faded, like Guy Mesger's and they had their Dallas Lions Den, and things just kind of slowly went different ways. And when I was out in Tulsa, Mikey actually gave up MMA and he went to boxing. And I was like, all right, so now I'm like, okay. So I trained a lot of boxing with some world-class trainers out there. Yeah. And integrated into my MMA stuff. But it was weird because all the gyms are breaking up. Mikey's going to boxing. The next time he fought MMA was in he fought Din Thomas in when he ran his head through the wall of the Ultimate Fighter house. Hurt himself pretty bad. He was in Ultimate Fighter, the comeback.
That's season 4.
Season 4?
Yeah. Yeah, and he ran his head through the wall and got like neck serious.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mikey's a little crazy, bro.
The one where Matt Serra won. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he really won.
He did really win.
One of the biggest upsets in MMA history. But
So
yeah, it was frustrating. And then I fought in the IFC after about 3.5 years of rehab. I honestly had no business fighting at that time. I was still just putting things back together. And it was a super heavyweight tournament. I was the favorite with Gan McKee. He fought in the UFC. And my mind just wasn't working the right way. And, I broke my hand in a street fight, which we'll get into in a little bit. So I was popping quite a few pills back then because of my hand. I only have like 2 knuckles on this hand. I don't know if you can see it, but
working at the bar for 10 years will do that to you.
I only kick people at the bar. And a modified headlock to restrain them. Modified.
Modified. I've heard about a few of your bar fights. We'll get into it after.
So, I went into this tournament thinking, oh, fuck, I'm just worrying about Gan McKee, 7 foot tall, and he's a wrestler. And that's all I was worrying about. And forgot to show up for my first fight. I got tie kicked in the head, didn't even see it. I didn't even see. You know what sucks is train my ass off, training like 5 a days, moved across country, did all this shit, and I don't even remember the fucking fight. I don't even like it, you know. And then right after that, the girl I was dating from Utah, that was like a 1 weekend thing. She became pregnant with my son, and I left. I left Tulsa. I had to come back to Utah to 1 weekend.
They get you every time, Phil. They get you every time, man.
Yeah, only like twice that I know of. So that's kind of when I left the Lions then. So that kind of ends like kind of, you know, where that piece was with the Lions then, I guess, you know.
Okay.
So yeah, go ahead. Any more questions on that?
I think you pretty much covered all the Lions Den stuff.
I want to know about Matt Hughes getting in bar fights in Utah.
What? Matt Hughes got where? I missed this.
Let's clarify that. He was defending himself. This is the truth. Okay. So
okay.
That's fine, but it probably ended with him whooping somebody's trash all over a bar.
Okay, so I got to tell you how I met Matt Hughes. So
in Utah.
When I got knocked out in IFC, the guy elbowed me. There's a brutal clip of it you guys can find. I was knocked out tie kick. He elbowed me, and he's like 350. He elbowed me about like 12 times, broke everything on this side of my face. I still have issues with it. He's actually a good dude. He didn't know. He thought like I kind of seized, so he thought I was like, you know, defending myself. And like I said, I was the favorite with Garen McKee in that tournament that had like Paul Bonatello, Tim Lachik. There were some badass dudes in this tournament. So he was, you know, he was going to go out on his shield as quick as he could and went after me and got it. So my first fight back, I ended up fighting one of Matt Hughes's guys. So in Utah. So I fought him in Utah. It's a pretty brutal fight. I think I sent you a clip of it where it was more of a pride rules fight. I kneed him in the head about 15 times.
Yep.
It's like
nasty.
I really wish they allowed knees to the head in all MMA on the ground. I think that it's such a thing that they're taking out of the sport. And I think part of that kind of caught Mighty Mouse when he fought in K1, that he wasn't kind of ready when he got knocked. He wasn't kind of ready for that change, you know. But I fought Matt Hughes. I fought a guy. He had like 65 more fights than me. I was, you know, Matt Hughes' promoter, Monty Cox, knew who I was. He got a hold of me to fight out here, and I was going to fight like 4 different guys. I was even going to fight Nate Corey at one time from Inquest. And then he's like, hey, everybody, it's kind of dropped out. It hasn't happened. I don't know what's going on. But I have a guy that'll fight you. He's got like, you know, I only had a handful of actual legalized pro fights like that were sanctioned, and most of those weren't even sanctioned. I don't even think I ever got blood pressured or nothing like inspected by doctor.
Blood pressured?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, a physical, nothing. You didn't have to get a physical. You didn't like have to do anything. I mean, I fought a tough man fight here, like more than legally intoxicated, you know. I didn't even remember it the next day.
Oh man.
And not because I got beat up, the other way around, actually. I was like, nah. So I fought this guy, Rick Gravison. He looked like seriously like death. Like he had pinhead. He has one of the best tattoos of all time, they say. Like he has the complete pinhead from Hellraiser tattooed on his back.
Really? Okay.
And I'm like, so Monty, I'm like, what the fuck, Monty? Like, who the fuck is this dude? Like he's like the scariest looking. My face broke, dude. Like it's kind of in the back of my head. And you got like, could you find anyone less like
intimidating?
Jim Moore's like good friends with him, I think. But could you find someone less intimidating for my first fight back? And he's like, everyone else dropped out. This is what you got. So honestly, when I fought him, I was like kind of scared of him. So I went at him like right away. I just went like Khabib, like just relentless shot. And, you know, unfortunately for me, it was in a ring. So I kept taking him down. And it was going out of the ring. And instead of like setting us, Lonnie Foster, old rest in peace, he actually gave me the gloves for that fight, some kick skins, thank God. I don't know how kick skins were ever legal. I would take him down. I'd get like dropped in the front row pretty much. So I finally spun him off. he tried to submit me with a couple things, and then I got in a front headlock, and that was my move at the time. I was watching the hell of Mark Coleman, Kevin Randleman, and Pride, and how they were kneeing people on the ground, and then I just teed off and kneed him. So right after the fight, this is long story how I met Matt Hughes, was I go over to the corner, and Hughes thought I was talking shit, and I was like, that's the fucking man right there. That's the man, because I knew how badass Matt Hughes was. It was his fight. He fought Steve Gaume, and then the next month he beat Carlos Newton for the UFC championship with that, when he power slammed him in the triangle. That's kind of controversial if he was out or not out. He was definitely dazed. But I went over and I was like, that's the fucking man. I was giving him props, and he thought I was talking shit. So he turned right back around to confront me. And he had a fight, like 2 fights from that. And then he realized what I was saying. And he's like, oh, okay, cool, man. So we kind of got a little connection there, because I was like, I was intimidated. I had Matt Hughes in this corner.
Yeah.
I just had a couple kids that didn't even know much about MMA at the time in my corner. I didn't, I was like, fuck, I knew who Matt Hughes was, So that's how I kind of got to know Matt Hughes. And then he was in town for here's how the infamous, this is like an urban legend bar fight, right?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Here's how it happened was Matt was in town for an Extreme Challenge event. That was the pro show that used to come here that had Tim Sylvia. I fought on the same card with Tim Sylvia. Some really good guys. Horn's fought Extreme Challenge here. I mean, people think Horn's only fought here like once or twice. He's fought here like a couple rings and Extreme Challenges, I'm pretty sure. Jeremy Horn. So they were at my bar after, and Horn was there, and he had left, and then Hughes was hanging out with a couple of my buddies and his buddies, the Edmonds twins. They're pretty notorious. They own part of Trust Me Vodka. Pretty good goofy kids, guys. They're not fighters by any means. So they were upstairs at my bar. This is called Club Natalie's. It was a bar I was running at the time, and these 3 guys. There was 4 of them actually. These 3 guys kind of figured out, they thought, that's that Matt Hughes dude, right? Like, and they were kind of like gangster kids, right? Like they were, like 185, 195 pound, like Latino guys. And they were like, they kind of formulated a plan to go after him, right? And I was like, all right, I went to go grab one of my security. I was like, hey, there's going to be an issue. We need to make sure this doesn't happen. I don't know how many of them there were. There only ended up being 4 involved, but this is the honest to God truth, guys. And I know bar fights get exaggerated and legends happen or don't happen, and this is the truth. One of them hit Matt Hughes' friend with a bottle in the head and broke the bottle open. Guy probably still has like scar from here to there. And then they went at Matt, and he dropped 2 of them in 2 punches. So he hit like a boom and a boom. And they kind of fell on each other. And the one dude went night-night. He was night-night. He was snoring. The other guy was like TKO'd trying to get up. And another dude ran at Hughes, and he dropped him 1 punch and like TKO'd him too. The other guy I got a hold of, with a modified headlock to restrain him. Headlock to restrain him. I did not restrict his air. I don't know why he passed out. But yeah, he knocked out 3 guys in maybe 4 punches. It's a true story. It's not an exaggeration. The weird thing was, all my bouncers, I usually have a lot of large Polynesians that work for me. They were like, I thought he was a wrestler, bro.
That's what I'm sitting there envisioning in my head. Matt Hughes, picking somebody up and then dumping him on a table or something like.
No, he dropped. One was out cold, 2 TKOs, like out, KO, TKO.
Can we get that on his Tapology record?
Yeah, can add it to his Tapology record.
He's got a big enough.
John Doe.
So I got him out of there. He was apologizing to me. He's like, dude, I'm sorry. I'm like, dude, I snuck him out my secret bat cave exit to make sure, he didn't get in any trouble or anything, because he was the UFC champion at the time. He was just defending himself, man, but we wanted to make sure there was no issues. But that's a true story. He might have thrown 4 punches, but I was kind of, holding somebody that went asleep at the time, so I didn't really know what you know. But I did see the 2 go down, and maybe he threw a 1-2 on the other guy, but it was they went night, man.
Liquid courage, man. It gets them all the time.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. I used to work at Liquid Joe's. I worked there for like 6 years. And
Yep.
One night we had in somebody you know very well, Brandon Melendez came in back when he was super active, and I knew who he was.
Do I have stories about Brandon Melendez that are going to blow you guys away?
Somebody was talking trash, and I'm like, dude. And I watched this fight. I knew who he was, and I'm like, you do not mess with this guy, bro. Like I do not get paid enough to step in here. I make $10 an hour. I am not going to stop this dude from whooping your ass.
You made 10? $10 an hour?
Plus tips. This was 15 years ago. Yeah.
Wrong,
10 plus tips. It was a good night. A little different at the other club that we worked at.
Yeah.
That was
allegedly.
Allegedly.
Okay, we're this.
So what happened? He knocked him out or what?
No, it actually didn't. I ended up kicking the other kid out. I'm like, dude, you're just not. Yeah. So luckily that night, nothing ended up happening. But
so Brandon Melendez, you know, he got stabbed at my bar. There was a murder.
I was working there. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. You were there.
I wasn't there, but I was at Beck Street.
You were at Beck Street.
Beck Street. Yeah.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
So there was a fight that happened. Speaking of Brandon Melendez, this is a horrible thing. There was a fight that happened literally like within 2 minutes of 2 guys seeing each other.
Mm-hmm.
It was somewhat gang related, somewhat not gang related. Like the one guy who did the killing, he had planned on going out. He had been practicing all night on a bag, stabbing it. Okay. Yeah. He had planned on doing this. That's what his girlfriend testified in court and said that he was planning on. So they were going to come to the strip club. He was going to get some shots, and then they were going to go to downtown to a club, and he was planning on killing somebody. He'd like lost his marbles, she said, or something, and she was like scared of him, and there was nothing she could do. So they got in a fight right away, and it hit the ground, and Brandon was just picked the guy up to get him off of him, and the guy had stabbed the guy directly in the heart, killed him 2 feet in front of 2 freaking feet in front of the front door. And no one kind of knew what was going on because they didn't see the knife. It happened so quick.
Yeah.
And then he snuck around Brandon and he shanked Brandon in his lung on the side. If one of our friends, Carl, wasn't there with a car right then, they threw him in the car. If they didn't get him to St. Mark's Hospital within a couple more minutes of when they got him there, he's dead. Like they had to go right into his lungs were filling up with blood. It was a horrible, horrible, situation. I had just pulled up right after it happened. I wish I was there, but I don't know what all happened so fast. I mean, I usually carry. I'm a firm believer in having a weapon on you. I would have shot the guy if I would have seen any kind of if he's coming at people with knives, and that's where this whole knife stuff. You shouldn't shoot people or not, dude. If they have a knife, they're trying to kill you, man. Like that's the bottom line.
No,
you know? And you don't have that disarm stuff doesn't work. The best defense for a knife attack is a double tap to the head, to the body, to center mass, man. But speaking of Brandon and street fights, so Brandon was a really good MMA fighter.
He was very good.
Really good.
Very good.
He's one of those guys, though, when there's talks about MMA fighters versus boxers or street fights or all-out fights. Brandon's actually like a world-class street fighter. Okay, yep. His last like 4 or 5 MMA fights, he didn't even train for it. Like he went to Vasa Gym and jogged and did some hiking and a little bit of stuff. Like he was a world-class street fighter. I've seen Brandon knock out 20, 25 guys, like easy. Never instigated it, never started it, but ended it. Like, I mean, easily in the 20s,
What is he doing? What is he doing to be involved in that many fights though, that he never started or instigated?
So I'll give you an example. Like we're at a tattoo shop, after parties, hanging out, and this gangster kid comes up and starts shit with him and starts throwing punches. Is he supposed to run away or walk away? Or, I mean, it happens. They do happen. I know like some people say, well, you're asking for it if you're hanging out in bars and stuff like that. But me and Brandon beat a couple of people up at Southern once. It was like 6 in the afternoon.
I was going to ask you about that. I remember that going down.
Yeah, like I lateral dropped that dude like so hard.
That was like a pretty big thing too back then,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah, there was all kinds of, I probably lost count of how many fights he got into, but he'd defend himself and people would come at him. Like, was Brandon gonna walk away? Probably not.
Well, and he wasn't one of those guys that you look at and you're like, this guy's. If you didn't know who he was, he's not
really
like
want to mess with
intimidating.
him.
Like he's not like he's not a huge guy. He's just an average looking dude, but he would put your lights out.
Yeah, he's he's from, this comes up the conversation about boxers being able to street fight or MMA fight, and where they're from, I think is a big indicator of if they can actually do that. So Brandon's from like, the Rose Park, Glendale area, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, he ain't playing around. Like,
Yeah.
He knows how to fight, I've seen him flatline quite a few people, and every one of them deserved it pretty much. He's definitely an MMA guy that could fight on the streets. There's some that can, there's some that can't. Like if you have like a guard player, like jiu-jitsu guy and stuff, are you really going to pull guard on a concrete? Like, I mean, that's not going to necessarily end well.
Of course, I'm going to throw up a triangle, Phil.
Well,
no, I'm just kidding.
People like I've seen he was one of the guys from House. He got in a fight at this club that I worked at, Club Release. He knocked himself out like doing like a flying triangle on a guy, like trying to fight with him and stuff, and it was he got coherent again, but he was out, like people have to keep in mind like all those things, like for a street fight, you can't like pull a lot of your jiu-jitsu's out the window, man. It really is. You can't just all of your guard work. I mean, yes, it could get worked in, but I'll tell you what, right now, if you're in a big fight and you're triangling somebody, their friends are going to jump in, dude. They are like,
100%.
One of my coaches, he said, he's like, now, if you're ever like in a real fight, like this is what you don't use. And he said he went and he decided he was going to reap somebody's knee and heel hook them and like tear their ACL. As soon as he grabs the leg and cinches it up, before he rolls, some other buddy just comes and kicks him in the face and knocks him out. He's like,
it happens, man.
He's like, you can't do this stuff in the street.
I mean, so let's get to the topic of boxers versus, that was a big thing that blew up on your thing. Boxers,
little controversial,
and fighting and street fighting. So look at Clarissa Shields last night, man. That's legitimately the best woman boxer of all time, right? Is it
unquestionably?
Unquestionably, yeah. Not even a debate.
What would Kayla Harrison do to her?
She would throw her on her head, and
it wouldn't be pretty.
No, that girl that she fought, I mean, give her props. She's a pro fighter. She's getting in there. That girl is supposed to be a brown belt. I did see one kind of partial armbar. She did try an armbar at one point.
But she was in and out for 2 rounds.
We're going to talk about it on the podcast after this, Phil.
Oh,
we call shenanigans. Yeah. We call shenanigans.
Yeah,
there was something fishy about that.
There was, to a point, but I don't know that girl was that good to begin with. If you put her with, like I said, with Kayla Harrison, I mean, they're going to have to start finding guys to fight Kayla Harrison. I mean,
she is a monster.
She's a monster, but that boxing versus MMA kind of situation, that Brittany, if it was a legit fight, that Brittany Elkins girl, she's not even a top 500 fighter, right? I mean, and Clarissa Shields is the best, right?
She's 3-7 now. So, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not trying to knock on her, but it's like me and Jason actually talked about it. We thought she had a really good chance of winning because it's like, look at her experience in MMA. Her last 7 competitions were grappling competitions, not even MMA. I'm like, how does she not just M&R roll until she grabs a leg and then just like do whatever she wants on the ground? There's no way. I don't care how good of a boxer, athlete, whatever Clarissa Shields is. There's no way she should have been able to overcome that experience on on
if it got to the mat, and it did get to the mat.
And it did. That's why I'm like, something's fishy there. Like, I don't know.
She went for it, but I do think. So this is what I think on this subject. 5 or 6 out of 10 times, it's like Randy Couture versus Lights Out Tony, and he kind of got that up last night at one point. No one really caught onto it, but you're going to get a takedown. You're going to submit them within, or ground and pound them. You're going to submit them within about a minute and a half 2 minute. There would be
Yeah.
some scenarios where like Clarissa Shields, where she's going to be able to punch from every angle and kind of tough it out and then hit you enough that is going to make a difference. But you even saw with her boxing on the feet, she landed a few pretty good shots.
She did.
But it
Yeah,
wasn't
her
easy
hands.
for her to just be like teeing off like on a double end bag or in a boxing. She wasn't hitting those combinations. And that's where like a lot of boxers would have to adjust their – you're not going to hit like a 17 punch combination in MMA, dude. There's just too many doubles.
And they said it very. I can't remember if it was Sean O'Connell or Randy Couture in the Clay Collard fight. He says he's got to shorten up his combinations because that's what was opening up the takedowns.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it was mostly Couture, if I remember, was really on top of that.
Like I said, I was watching it the jazz game, so yeah.
Yeah. But you know, there are boxers that can fight. There's probably one, you know, that can street fight too. They're like Joe Bish. He's on the like that dude's from you know, Glendale Rose Park. If you think he can't fight,
we've had him on too. He had some stories to tell us too.
Oh, they're awesome legit. Guy. Like those, you know, those dudes are legit. I mean, you look at it like even like in an MMA world, Sal Sanchez, he's still undefeated, right? Like
he was a killer. Yeah, he was a.
Well, that was his name, was the killer.
Scary dude.
He didn't really use anything but boxing to become undefeated, too. He didn't really – I don't know that Sal, even to this day, knows what some basic jiu-jitsu moves are. And he's my boy, but I'm telling you, dude, like I don't know. Like he's either KO'd or TKO'd or kind of grounded and pounded most everyone. He uses his – but he's a dude from the street. Sal Sanchez easily had 300 street fights, and people are like, you don't ever get that many street fights. Yes, you do. You know, they do happen, you know. Street fights are more, you know, Zack, you did say like, how did Brandon keep getting into these situations? Well, he's a professional bouncer for about 7 years.
That answers a lot of it.
That's
right?
And
people do step to you, and Brandon's not like, if people step to me, I will try and resolve it and stuff to a point, you know, but there's also reality. There's also like I've had several pro fighters get in fights at my bars, even recently. You know, there's a reality that you're only going to get let step to so much because you're concerned for your safety. Quite frankly, you know. And people unfortunately would step to Brandon, and they found out the hard way, You know. So to finalize with the boxing versus in a street fight. MMA is gonna win the majority of the time because it's gonna go into different areas. It's not just gonna, but the initial minute to a minute and a half is generally gonna start. I've seen 10,000 bar fights. That's not like, I'm not exaggerating. I've been in this industry for like 25 years. I've easily seen, man, sometimes at Southern we'd have 15 in a night, dude. It was like, what the hell, man? Like, and then we go 2 months without a fight, you know, like it was. So you're going to start with your hands. Okay. That's the truth. That's the truth. You're going to start with your hands. The boxer is going to have a bit of an advantage at that point because it is going to be within their realm. Also, another thing that people don't think about, like you can't just throw kicks in a bar with a table right here. You just, you know, if you're throwing around, you can't necessarily do that. You can get into like a knee situation or a takedown, but a lot of your weapons are neutralized unless you get out into the street and unless you get space to kind of use that. The other thing with MMA guys is now a lot of them have like the neo footwork. Is that what it's called? Neo footwork, like the footwork plan, like TJ Dillashaw, all them do.
Yeah.
You can't fucking do that. Like when you start throwing down real quick, you can't like, you know, you can't like hit your like six, you know. You got to have room to move. Now, if you get in the parking lot, you can do a lot of that, you know? So I've seen it both ways, man. I've seen boxers destroy dudes. I've seen boxers get destroyed. I've seen MMA guys get the shit beat out of them in a bar fight, you know? Like 4 or 5 guys, this is a steel fist. This is where to tell people watching this right now, like, man, when you go to the bar after your fight, don't think you're king shit, man. We had 3 or 4 guys that came in to Southern once. I think, Jace, I think you were part of the team then. They had won all their fights in Steel Fist that night. This is a true story. I don't know who they were. It was right after I quit announcing for Steel Fist. I basically had to because of work. You know, I did like the first 24 shows. I was like the co-host, like 24 times. So they came in, they were celebrating, and they got into it with some guys from the Glendale Rose Park area. And those 3, I think there was 4 MMA fighters. Like they ended up getting beat up by like 30 dudes, 30 like homies from Glendale Rose Park area that were in that night. They had, and we couldn't even stop it. Like we tried to stop it. Me and Brandon tried to stop it. And like, Nick Rossborough wasn't there then, but to give you like MMA guy, but maybe Jake Paul was there. There's nothing we could do. Dude, we had to actually just say, hey, they've had enough. Because we would end up having to fight 30 to 40 dudes. And from working in the bar industry, like if a big group comes in, you're like,
or if when the polys start fighting, you just let them go at it. They'll work it out themselves.
Nobody knows who these kids were, but they got the living shit beat out of them, and they got hit with chairs and stuff. And we tried to like save them and stop whatever we could, but there wasn't much we could do, man, with that many people, and that's a reality. And they were popping off. They were walking around like, I won my fight, man. Fuck you. I'm a badass, world champion, and even Brandon warned him, like, dude, don't be stepping to these dudes, because they kind of like don't be stepping to these dudes, and they stepped to him. And they got it was not good, dude. I'm glad nobody got killed.
It's good.
So,
hey Phil, did you see the comment from Jeremy Peterson? Can you see it on there? He says it's not too early to have a shot. Wish those hogs good luck tonight.
Is that Jeremy Peterson, the fighter? Oh no, I think that's my friend from Arkansas.
Yeah, I think
cool,
he's from Arkansas.
I've seen quite a few coming through, man. It's kind of cool.
True. I'll never forget. I had a buddy that after I won my steel fist belt, he's like, we should take your belt and go out to Wendover and have a good time. I was like, yeah, right, dude. Like, everybody, I'm gonna be out there and everybody's gonna try and fight me. I'm not going anywhere with my belt. Like, we go have a good time, but like, I'm not trying to go flash around a belt or whatever, and like, you're just
people when they get drunk, they will try and test you. I mean, it's a reality, like, it is a reality that they will try and test you, regardless of their talent level or whatever. They will try and step to you some aspects. And I guess that's a case by case basis, man. I mean, every place is dangerous now. You could go to the movie theaters and get shot. I mean, who would ever thought that? No place is safe these days. That is why I do carry. It's not necessarily for me and my protection, but like for people I know and love, and like innocent kids and people around, that I could do something, because you can't do anything from 15 to 20 feet away. Even if you're Mike Tyson, Francis Ngannou, you just can't. Maybe Khabib could get a shot. That's about it. Like he'd shoot one of those long takedowns that you can't stop. But you need to be advised of the situation and ready and know that it could happen. So, I'll give you. I know we got a couple more things. I'll give you one example. So when I lived in Tulsa, the first night that I went out, that's how I broke my hand. I went out with this MMA fighter. His name is Shane Garrett. And we were with the ref for a lot of UFCs and Strike Force. His name's Troy Waugh. I think we aged Troy about 10 years that night, like with what happened. Because Troy had a super nice guy, older guy, never been in a fight. But we walked into this bar in Tulsa. It's my first night out, first time having a drink after I moved there. And this huge bouncer, this is all a true story. This was all over the internet for a little bit too.
Yeah.
This huge bouncer came up to me. I'd had like an iced margarita, and it kind of gave me like a brain freeze. And I put my head down like this. We were just there. I'm talking 3 minutes. And I got like the brain freeze. I put my head down, and he came right up to me. He's like, if you fucking do that again, we'll kick you the fuck out of here. And I'm like, I'm all, excuse me? Like, do I know you? And I do think he was on drugs. I think he was on something, because he was all like, kind of, doing the coke job.
Oh yeah.
And he was kind of eyeballing me. I'm like, dude, what the fuck, dude? Like, and Shane was like, they probably know because we're like Lions Den guys or something. I didn't know that there was like some animosity with some of that.
Yeah.
And so I'm not even shitting you, man. About 5 minutes later, I mean, this guy was big. He was like 6'8", Native American, huge dude. He comes walking up, and I didn't have my head down, but I was just kind of like sitting there, and he literally grabbed me over and tried to like power bomb me, dude. Like,
oh damn!
Like, literally, no words were said, no nothing. Okay, this dude was so big, he did pick me up in the air like almost like a pro wrestling move. I wonder if he was a pro wrestler, because there's a lot of pro wrestlers out there. I mean, he was that big, And he tried to slam me, Shane hit him, and it didn't even phase him. He didn't even like. And I'm like, fuck. I'm like grabbing onto something so he can't pull me up in the air and then just like slam my ass on the ground, right?
Yeah.
So Shane hits him again. Nothing's happening. My other friend hit him, not phasing him, right? And he's about to throw me, like he was gonna like do some serious damage to me, okay?
Yeah.
Because we were right off like there was like a 6-foot drop off the stage where we were, okay? So he's got me up. I'm going up, and then all of a sudden I hear this bottle break. And he finally, so my friend allegedly hit him with the bottle, okay, at that point. So he finally let go of me, and I fell onto the dance floor. It was that close. I would have got seriously injured. That's like how bad of the area that I was and how far he was trying to throw me on my head. So we end up getting in a fight. All the bouncers start trying to jump us. And this is the last time I really punched people in a street fight, because I broke this hand severely. I do believe that's what I couldn't spar even till about 2 weeks before my fight in the IFC. We started laying, like, I don't know, I was like on Brandon Melendez level that night. I laid that dude out. A couple of them tried to fight us. We like cleared the entire room. It's not an exaggeration. It was well talked about on like the underground forum. Probably still Google it. It was Halloween time. This is the funniest thing is we laid out about 5 or 6 bouncers. At that point we just went through them all, just started ravaging them all, because they were attacking us. They were assaulting us. One of them threw a bottle. I ducked out of the way. I go out the door. This is the funniest fucking thing ever. So it's Halloween. I finally get pushed out the door, and Shane is fighting a guy that's dressed like a clown because it's Halloween. He was the security guard, and he's armbarring him. Okay.
Yeah.
Because maybe he hadn't. No, it was an armbar for sure. And I was like, "Am I fucking tripping? Like, what?" Because he was full on clown. I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
Am I tripping? And then I kind of come back to reality, because they're still trying to punch me in the back of the head. And I just racked that dude, knocked him out. That Shane was armbarring him. We got in the parking lot. A few more of them tried to fight us. We beat them up, and then they left, and we got into a car and got the fuck out of there. That's a true story with the notorious Shane Garrett he's a hook and shoot Midwest fighter. That was my first. That was my first. Not my last, but Shane's been in a bar fight in Tulsa where his friend got shot. They got in a fight at a strip club, and the guy tried to shoot Shane like multiple times, missed him, and shot his friend Danny. And Danny had permanent paralysis in part of one side of his body from that shooting. I mean, this is what you guys. I'm not glorifying street fights, but there is a reality that they can and will happen in certain circumstances.
Just especially in those bar type situations, you mix alcohol and women and alpha males, and it's
well anything. Like, I walked out of the Vasa gym in South Jordan the other day, and there was this kid laying on the ground, and I went up to him, and I'm like, I mean, he looked like he was maybe not okay, and I asked him, "Hey man, you okay?" So yeah, I'm just taking a break. Mind your own fucking business. And I'm like,
okay,
all right, dude. I'm just making sure, like
little
I'm not a first
rage going on there,
but I'm making. Yeah, he was all juiced up, dude.
Yeah,
and I'm like. I'm just making sure you're all right, man. But all right, yeah, fuck you too, dude. But I mean, I normally would have been more level-headed, but I was just done with the workout, so I just, I walked away and left. But it could happen anywhere. If I wanted to press that issue, I would end up getting in a fight with him. I kind of backed away and just got out of the situation. But that's in South Jordan, Whiteville, Utah, man. I mean,
anywhere, man.
Just never know, man.
Anywhere, anytime. Hey, Phil.
Yeah.
We know you have stories for days.
Yeah.
We're going to have you on again.
Yeah.
Oh, I have some leave behinds. So, when you go on a hot date with a chick and you just leave something behind.
You're going to leave us some little gems before we get out of here?
No. Well, I got some leave behinds. I know yes, I will actually. I know there was a huge, massive, the biggest fight that ever happened at a fight in the history of Utah MMA. There was a huge brawl. Now with everything going on with the, I don't want things getting misinterpreted. It was about me, but I don't want things getting misinterpreted that it was gang related, because I do run with a lot of Polynesians. Like most of my friends are actually Polynesians. So if we ever get in a fight, it's like, oh, it's gang related, which is bullshit. I don't like that stereotyping. You know, most of my inner circle are actually very successful Polynesian businessmen. My mentor is actually Mike Namu, who was on the is it 84 BYU won the football team, the national championship.
1984 BYU.
You know, he's a Hawaiian guy. You know, he's my mentor. You know, a lot of my Polynesian friends are hugely successful. So if a fight happens, people kind of assume that's what happened. Now's not the time with all the rumors about all the drive-bys and everything to kind of get into that. Right. I respect for all that and all that stuff. I'm not even going to get into that, but we will come back to it sometime, because it was not gang related. It was not. It was a fight. It was, you know, it was a fight at the fights.
Yeah. Well, I mean, more people. We're loving hearing from you. We're limited on StreamYard of how long these can go, and so we want to do it before it kicks us off.
My feelings aren't hurt, dude.
There are people that still want to hear more from you, and you know you're a big part of local MMA. A lot of people around here like you, remember you, know you, and want to hear from you. And you know we're the platform for for local MMA to come on and you know we appreciate your time and you coming on, and we hope to see you at the fights.
Oh, you will. And that's one of the things I did want to say though, guys, is you fighters out there, like, you need to take advantage of platforms. You need to push your products. You need to get sponsors and hunt sponsors down and make it happen. It's not going to happen on itself, no matter how good you are. Like, you've got to have those outside influences. You've got to take advantage of your platform, get on a podcast, get on your social media, and don't just do the same thing and talking about how tough you are or whatever. Like, get marketed, get promoted, you know. For all the shit that people talk about Logan Paul, dude's a genius, man. He's a genius.
You cannot deny the hustle, man.
Yeah.
I got one last thing though, Jason.
Yes, sir.
Did you really say that Mr. 209, the Stockton slap, Nate Diaz is gonna lose to Leon Edwards? Did I hear that correctly?
He's not even gonna lose. He's gonna lose just as bad, if not worse, than he did to Jorge.
All right, dude. I'm betting you $20. I'm going to send it to the Wounded Warriors Foundation.
All right.
If Leon Edwards wins, no, I'll do it. Okay.
Okay.
If Nate Diaz wins, I'm going to send $20 to the Wounded Warriors Foundation. We're both veterans in the military.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So I'll just cover that. But I'm on the 209 train, the Stockton slap, the Nate Diaz, dude. Don't ever count him out of a fight.
Dude, you can't deny, like, the press conference, everything's funner when Nate Diaz is involved.
Or Nick.
Okay, well, stop it with Nick, because until I see him sign a contract,
I heard it's going to happen.
I've been hearing it for 2 years, Phil. Yeah. I'm waiting.
Nate's as tough as they come. Phil, I'm a fan.
He hasn't won a fight since 2011, Phil. Just remember that.
No, he's actually had a few street fights. Google it.
I'm sure he has. He has not had a sanctioned fight. Like,
yeah, but I've seen less of his partying pictures and his, dick pics on social media stuff than I was before. No, he posted them. Why
are you looking at those, Phil?
I was swiping left.
Hey,
I appreciate you guys having me on, man.
Give another shout out to your whiskey company, man. Let us see it.
Where can they go? And tell people if they missed it the first time where they can buy it.
Yes.
I Wish You Would whiskey. This is our peach. You can get it. DM me, message me for information. You can get it at
Phil's DMs.
Yeah, slide right
in the DMs.
You can get it at the Payson Liquor Store and a couple stores down south. It will be in all the liquor stores soon.
Nice.
We there's some work to do, and then you can get it at the Clearwater Distillery in Pleasant Grove, Utah's first and only distillery. So thanks a lot, guys, man. It's been a blast.
Hey, Phil, it was awesome having you on. Thanks for taking us down memory lane and sharing the stories with us.
Jordan Clements is messaging me.
Yeah, he's awesome, we appreciate it, Phil. Well, let's get out of here, man. We'll talk to you later.
He went up in my bar like 2 months ago. I don't know. So.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it, Phil.
Hey, thanks, man. It's been a blast.
Yeah. And